What's up, everybody? Welcome on back. Midweek edition here. Awesemo NBA talk. Of course, a whole lot of great commentary coming your way, not only in the next half hour with Geoff, Ulrich, and I am Adam Kaufman, but over the course of your day and week, it's nonstop here at Awesemo. And in this particular show, Moose, you well know this, and hopefully our viewers do as well. We're talking Jock Market NBA with a busy slate tonight in the association. A lot of games to get to, a lot of important injuries, a lot of key details. 11 gamer on the docket. How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. Yeah, this is it's a fun show. Obviously, if you're new to Jock Market or haven't tried the site, I mean, bidding on the IPO process, just navigating like the in-game trades and stuff. It's a lot of fun. So like breaking it down, once a week here with you for NBA. And, again, Awesemo has projections out for this. We can identify a lot of values here, which is what we're going to try and do in a short little period of time. But people who've tried it know what I'm talking about. The people who haven't, I mean, Jock Market for NBA is a lot of fun.
So we talk about it all the time with regard to Jock Market. If you don't know, it's like the stock market, basically. Leading up into the start of the first game, you can bid on players you're interested in acquiring from the open market, as Geoff was just telling you about here. If there's a player that you consider to be, a favorite, your favorite, whatever it is, to finish at the top of the rankings, you can invest as much or as little as you want in their fantasy performance for tonight. Shares beginning at $1, ranging all the way up to $25. You can make speculative bids for shares of the backups you believe will make an impact as well. As Geoff was outlining as well, there's the in-game element of all of this. It's like live trading on the stock market again. So these are just some of the things to be aware of. If you're watching with us on YouTube, on Twitter, wherever you're finding us, get your questions in. We're happy to address them just about the slate in general. And obviously, as it relates to Jock Market and IPO pricing, projected, fair pricing, all of that good stuff. I don't want to twist everybody's brains into a pretzel. It can get a little bit confusing, obviously, Geoff. So we'll do our best to, make it simple for everybody. But is there one game of these 11 in particular that you are looking at?
Look, it's a big slate, so it's hard to break it down to just one game, but definitely, sure. I mean, the last game on the slate, the Hornets versus the Warriors is definitely, I think, a decent place to start off at. You're looking at the top right now. We've got Steph Curry with a fair IPO price on Awesemo at $11.7, whereas, his fair price on the site trending below 10. So I think Steph Curry in an up-paced matchup here. Again, we've got like the third biggest total on the slate with the Warriors and the Hornets. We don't really have injury concerns to worry about too much. We've got a close point spread. You can break it down further here. I mean, Steph Curry's usage and just his shot rate and things like that, 3-pointers attempted. I mean, this is a big game waiting to happen, right? So there is a couple of players who, like, it's not just Curry who looks underrated. I mean, we could talk a little bit about Karl-Anthony Towns as well. Mm-hmm. There's some injury stuff going on there with Minnesota. His usage is going to be through the roof, but I really like Steph Curry tonight. We'll see how popular he is. I almost wonder if his IPO might just stay a little bit more muted because of the fact, like, more people are looking on the other side of this game.
Obviously, we're not talking overs and unders specifically to this show. It doesn't really relate to Jock Market, but where it does become relevant, in that game that Geoff zeroed in on, is the projected high game for tonight. The over-under set at 226.5. It's relevant, obviously, because, you're looking for high production. You're looking for fantasy points. You're looking for those projections to materialize and get you a whole lot of, a lot of points from the guys that you're particularly big on. Steph Curry, as Geoff was talking about, he's projected in the vicinity of around 45 fantasy points tonight on Jock Market. And, some of the other studs that are available to you: Nick Jokic, there's Karl-Anthony Towns as well, Kevin Durant, Luka Doncic, Paul George, of course, without Kawhi Leonard all season, Joel Embiid, James Harden. He's part of that Nets team that is still and maybe for the rest of the year missing Kyrie Irving. We will see. So those are just, some of the big names available to you. And again, whether you're looking at projected totals versus where the market stands right now, there's a little bit of differentiation right there, which Geoff can break down for you. Do you have favorites? I know you mentioned Steph Curry. Do you have favorite guys that you're looking at tonight in particular among those studs?
Yeah, I mean, Curry is definitely like a guy. I think, again, we're getting like really strong projections on him. It's a really strong game environment. But Karl-Anthony Towns, at 1.4 fantasy points per game coming in here. I mean, he's definitely like the other stud. I think that should be on your radar. I mean, again, fair value on him. It's actually below 11 on Jock Market, but we have him projected for like around a 13 fair IPO price. So there's a pretty big deviation there too. And again, I mentioned Minnesota. I think most people already know. I mean, there's D'Angelo Russell out, obviously. Beverly questionable. I mean, like that's a big loss. Like, I mean, especially D'Angelo Russell for that team, right? So I just, Karl Anthony Towns is just a big spot there. The Clippers obviously also banged up. So, not like a horrible defensive spot or anything like that, right? So Karl Anthony Towns would be the other stud that I'm looking at. I mean, I think for me, those two really like are top of the market here for this week, for this night, I should say. But I mean, we do have 11 games. Obviously, there's a lot of other players we can talk about. But just wanted to go back to that Charlotte Warriors game, because I think this game is like, it needs to be talked about more than just Steph Curry. You've got Miles Bridges coming in. I'm going to bring him up again here, but I mean, like, he doesn't even have, like, his fair IPO price isn't even that big at under $4. This is a player who has given positive returns on Jock Market in 8 straight games now. Miles Bridges playing a lot, playing like more than LaMelo Ball. Again, it rates out as a good deal for us too in the Awesemo projections. So really liking Miles Bridges from that game too. People, I mean, he has been paying off at an insane rate here. If you look back at his like Jock Market game logs, and he's really not priced up at all today either. So just keep playing him, I guess.
Are there other, I don't know, maybe some value guys in that game too? Obviously, it's a little tough to, estimate whether a game gets out of hand. Guys get more usage, that type of thing. So you're sort of, leaning on the guys that and that you expect big things from. Again, Curry, Bridges, one on each side, as you mentioned. But some of the pay down options that exist in that game that you like?
I would probably just stay with like the bigger names in that game, because we don't have a ton of injury situation or anything like that.
No, not in that one.
And also, yeah, and also like we don't. I think some of the players too, like actually that we might be looking for, they may not be listed on Jock Market today. Like obviously we have the limited player pool. They're only paying out what is it, top 120 or sorry, no, what do they pay out? I can't remember. Top 120. I should know this offhand, but regardless, they don't have every single player from this game in the player pool, right? So the guys I'm looking at may not even be available tonight on Jock Market. So for me, I would stay up in that game. I think Draymond Green is actually like in a pretty decent spot. If you look at Charlotte, they're fourth last in terms of rebounding percentage. So Draymond Green is another player. I mean, maybe you just put in like a cheap bid for him at the start of the game or something, because I think most people will be focused on the guards there. So
another game expected to have a whole lot of points here, Geoff. Atlanta and Brooklyn starts at 7:30 Eastern tonight. 220 is the projected over-under. As we know, the Hawks, not a good road team, 1-3, and maybe more to the point, you're dealing with a situation where you might be able to find a lot of value. You might be able to really, have some pay down options that are appealing for you on Jock Market on that Atlanta side, because Trae Young and Bogdan Bogdanovic, they're both probable right now. And John Collins, he is questionable. Maybe what I'm talking about right now come 6 hours from now will be irrelevant. Everybody will be healthy. The regulars will be starting. It'll be what most people expect it to be. But if you have some of these guys, one or two of them ruled out, all of a sudden, obviously it's going to create a totally different dynamic for the Hawks.
Yeah, this is a game where it's kind of hard to comment on right now because there's so much up in the air, but Danilo Gallinari could be a big play if Collins sits. Gorgie Dang could definitely be like, a player who can who's really productive, like just in terms of fantasy points per minute for most of his career. So I believe he's seen the most minutes usage since when Collins isn't on the floor. So, I think both players realistically, I mean, if we get like all of them ruled out or two of the three, you could definitely go after two of them. So yeah, on that side of the ball, kind of looking there. I mean, they've, and then on the other side, yeah, Clint Capella is a player you could look at as well. So you're right. Like this is more of a game where you're going to be kind of be looking for value. Just going to see how a couple of these players rank out for us too, just in terms of, Capella has a pretty solid ranking there at 4.2 in the Awesemo side of the things. I'm not sure where he ranks in terms of fair value. It's about an even rate. I mean, we have him like kind of a more neutral play, but I definitely think that this is a game where, you want to be watching the news because one of those two players could just go a little bit overlooked. or maybe you just, get on the cheaper play there, because Gallinari and Dieng could both have some value if the injury situation works out. So
we have some news from Shams Charania here that Spurs center Jakob Poeltl has entered health and safety protocols. So this is, it's a thing again here, Geoff, obviously in year 2 of the COVID era, kind of. Obviously, he will not be available for San Antonio. You already have a team that injury-wise, it's in pretty good shape, or health and safety-wise. Doug McDermott, he's questionable for this game tonight at 8:30 against Dallas, where Kristaps Porzingis is questionable on the other side for the Mavs. What's, knowing now that there's going to be a new role, a new player jumping in there at the center position, the big man position, who's obviously going to be more of a factor without Poeltl in the lineup. Who are you looking at?
I mean, I do think Porzingis is likely to play tonight, so probably bumps up him a little bit just in terms of the matchup as well. That might be like the biggest takeaway.
Sure.
In terms of usage, I don't know if I'd be looking to necessarily like go after like a backup here or anything like that. I mean, Keldon Johnson, I guess, could see better usage, but he's not exactly like the most exciting fantasy play just in terms of like, points per minute or anything like that. I would say it probably bumps up. I mean, the Spurs are such like kind of a, not, I guess, boring team for fantasy in a lot of ways.
Boring is the right word for it.
Yeah, it is the right word. It really is. I mean, I was trying to find a nicer word, but there's really, I would just say that, like, realistically, probably the biggest thing here, Dejounte Murray probably does get a boost. Again, we're going to see more usage from their guards. I think they'll probably go a bit smaller if I had to predict. So Dejounte Murray all of a sudden becomes, I think just a better like upside spot for him. So just trying to see now where he is in the pricing, because I really didn't think too much about the Spurs until that news. So yeah, I mean, I think Dejounte Murray actually, he's $6 fair value. Again, like these projections on Awesemo probably going to, bump him up a little bit, I would assume, after that news. I'm not sure how much, but he certainly wasn't, like dominating as like a huge play for us or anything right off the bat, but something to take note of. Maybe when the projections get updated later in the day, I could see that. I could also see just getting on him as like a, again, you're putting in like kind of almost a stink bid or something. So yeah, not too concerning or not huge news really, but I think it bumps up Porzingis if he plays the most.
Well, I was digging down just looking for, you mentioned Keldon Johnson, which obviously makes a lot of sense, but, you can make a case for Drew Eubanks as well. But at least as projections stand right now, he's not even he's not listed. He's not a factor as far as Jock market goes.
Yep.
Now that could change over the course of the day, obviously, but as things stand at the moment, you won't be able to find him. So you got to wait for that to develop a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And all things considered, this is still a game like probably, I think there's just better targets out there. So,
yeah. No, that makes sense. Going back before that news, going back to Atlanta and Brooklyn, we, talked more about the Hawks side of things. What are you seeing now that we've obviously had a 6-7 game sample size from Brooklyn with Kyrie Irving completely out of the picture, out of the mix? It's Kevin Durant, it's James Harden. Both these guys have right around a $9 fair IPO value at the moment at what I was last looking at. Let me see if that's changed here. Yeah, they're both right around $9 at the moment. Fair IPO price being a little bit higher, close to $11. What's your outlook on those two studs tonight?
Yeah, I mean, both of them rank out pretty well. I mean, we definitely have Durant ranked a little bit higher, just in terms of the overall projections, whereas they're pretty equal on Jock market. So all things considered, you've got Durant with a little bit of the bigger boom factor. And I think against Atlanta, that kind of makes sense. I mean, if Trae Young was ruled out or something, that would probably change things a little bit. But Durant's, again, grading out is a pretty strong play. Like, there are certain studs tonight where, we're getting pretty good ratings on them to pay up. So Durant would be the choice there for me. Again, like we like Karl Anthony Towns, we like Steph Curry, but Durant is almost like, coming in as kind of like a third stud, just in terms of where he is in the projections and stuff for us. So, I think we actually have him. just slightly behind Luka Doncic even tonight. So Durant is definitely like the play there. In terms of usage, I mean, it's been pretty even. I mean, Harden obviously coming off a couple pretty strong games, but Durant's definitely been like kind of the more consistent play. I would lean back to Durant here, especially coming off like the lower output game. And on a night like this too, like this is the spot where people could just kind of forget about Durant because there's so many other names in play. So Durant there kind of projecting out as the play for us.
Want to mention to you guys, obviously, that our Awesemo Plus NBA Express weekly pass, it's cheap, folks, not even $5 a week, $4.95. It's the best way to introduce yourself to Awesemo Plus NBA. Believe you me, I love looking at these projections, love facing off with Moose, doing a little head-to-head action among some other people as well. Included access to our NFL DFS player and ownership rankings as well, lineup builders, some big board player values, everything you could possibly want to know. We have it available to you for Showdown, for Classics, for everything. If you're on a bit of a budget, that's okay. I mean, give it a try. Awesemo Plus NBA Express. Head over to Awesemo Plus, join the page, pick up your pass, just $4.95 a week. That is it. Bottom line here, stop guessing, start winning. Join Awesemo Plus today. We tell you to do it all the time. I can't sit here and promise you, Geoff, anybody out there that's thinking about doing this, that you're going to win the million or anything like that. But $5 a week, do a head-to-head with a buddy for $10, you'll come out on top. It's worth it.
Can't promise me. Come on. I mean,
I can't promise you a million. I'm sorry, but I can promise you will be profitable. More so, at least, than the $4.95 it'll cost you a week to try out these projections. We encourage that you do so. So among this 11 gamer, we got about 10 minutes here left with you. Talked about a few of these games. And again, if anybody has questions, get them in the YouTube chat King's conference room over here, over at the Twitter page as well. We're here for you. There's some hot teams tonight. There are some struggling teams. I mean, you can look up and down at this thing. You got the Celtics in Orlando. The C's have lost their last 3, but the Magic are 0-2 at home, Geoff. They're, Blazers are 0-3 on the road. The Bulls 6-1, one of the hottest teams in the Eastern Conference anyway, and they're perfect 3-0 on the road. They're in Philadelphia tonight, where the Sixers have won their last 3. I could go on and on. Every game has a little bit of a taste of that. But again, it's narrative street, obviously, what I'm talking about. Does stuff like that enter in for you? Do you care about overall team performance, or are you just drilling down on what players are up to here for the purposes of Jock Market?
I mean, for NBA, I like rarely look at narratives and stuff for NBA because it's such a night-to-night thing with the rotation, the player rotations. So really just kind of looking at that, like you mentioned, the Sixers coming off, obviously like Joel Embiid is back, but they've still got like a plenty of players out, obviously, Simmons, Green, Tobias Harris. So they're playing well, but and they're doing well with their sort of role players. And I think that does make them like a good team to target here. Like a guy like Shake Milton has like one of the best boom ratings for us in the boom bust NBA tool. Another thing you get with your Awesemo subscription. He's got pretty good usage, and realistically, like I do like him on Jock Market tonight. If you're looking for a guy lower down, I mean, like obviously the Bulls pretty good defensive team, pretty good defensive rating, but Milton is one of those guys. Not going to cost, you don't have to invest too much here, but if he goes off, he's going to go off. So we have him out there. Definitely like a player who I think is worth kind of looking at tonight, and just looking at his recent performances. Yeah, I mean, 2 nights ago he went nuts. He had a 124% ROI on Jock Market, but then you do look at like the rest of his performances and it's terrible. So it's very much a player who's like either going to get you everything and like really pay off with like a 100% or more ROI, or just probably not going to do much. But with the injury situation there, that's a player I don't mind like cheaply investing in tonight. One other situation is similar, just with like injuries. I really think Toronto is a team you're going to want to obviously keep an eye on tonight. Mm-hmm. Just going up to refresh my memory here, but yeah,
Scotty Barnes is out for that one for the Raptors.
That's the name we were just about to mention. So that's perfect. Barnes is out. OJ Anunoby playing big minutes, shooting more, better usage. Obviously, Van Vliet is there. I think Fred Van Vliet is definitely going to be popular tonight. He's got big usage. He plays a ton of minutes. People know that by now, but OJ Anunoby is a guy who really rates out well for us. We've got him like over $1 more than his fair market on Jock Market, or fair market value on Jock Market. And he's been very consistent too. If we go back to his like Jock Market recent game logs, he's like, you can see, I mean, the guy's shooting more and it's been paying off. OJ Anunoby now 118% ROI in his last, actually, he's got over 100% ROI in 2 of his last 4 games. He's had positive ROIs now in 5 of his last 6. I think he's a little bit underrated for us. He's actually the better value between him and Van Vliet too. So I think Anunoby is another player, kind of like Miles Bridges. You should just keep kind of going after, because these guys don't seem to be getting, they're not quite expensive enough.
You were talking about Philly before as well. Just folks remember, as you know, Geoff obviously talking about Shake Milton, Tobias Harris, Danny Green, both out in that one. So not going to be a factor, not going to be able to help you out there on the Philly side, which is part of what makes Joel Embiid perhaps such a compelling play tonight. Another guy, we were talking about health and safety protocols before, Geoff, obviously. Kevin Love, he still remains out for the Cavs, but there's a new addition for Cleveland. Lauri Markkanen has entered the league's health and safety protocols. He's not going to play. So, you know, Cleveland already obviously kind of in dire straits. We know this Cavs team is not by any stretch a great team. You know, it's mediocre, 4-4, and probably playing above its head, quite frankly. But given that you don't have Markkanen here for this club as well, anybody stand out to you?
I was trying earlier. Like, it seems like a really good spot, right? And it kind of is. It's just the guys who fill in for him just aren't that exciting. I mean,
yeah,
CD Osman, you know, Evan Mobley, like he kind of like under a fantasy point per minute guy. I think Mobley would probably be the person I'd be interested in here. But I'm not super interested. Like I kind of mentioned those other spots, and I do like looking kind of at the other spots better, but you could definitely invest in Mobley. I think at the very least, we probably have like a low bust factor here. So maybe he doesn't go off for like a massive game, but I think there's a good chance at the very least, like you're not going to be left with like nothing, because, you know, the rotation is obviously down to 7 players here. I mean, somebody's got to get, or I don't know if it's 7 players, but it's low.
Yeah, low number.
It's a low number, right? So you're just investing in the Cleveland guys tonight. It might just be enough just to get you a positive use. So I do think like you need to look at this spot. It's just that I don't necessarily have like a guy I'm super excited about versus another one. I think it would be Mobley for me. Probably most likely to get, I think, the best minutes with Markkanen now out as well. So it's definitely somewhere where you should be looking at tonight, and it's good to bring it up because I actually completely forgot about this because there's so many games on the slate. But we do have a situation where, you know, we're down to like 7 or 8 players. I believe Rubio's still going to be out there, so maybe you just pay up for him. I'm actually kind of interested to see now where we even had Ricky Rubio just ranked here. If I can find him quickly.
Sure.
Okay, so we have him ranked there, and then on Jock Market, I'm not sure where he's coming in, but I mean, I think, again, this is just a spot where I don't even know if you want to look at the projections right now. Maybe take a look at them later in the day once they're updated for the market and news. But I really do feel like most of these Cleveland Cavaliers probably going to be good investments tonight. It's just, I don't think there's like a smash play where it's like, oh yeah, we all should get on this guy. I think it's kind of going to be, you know, maybe one guy performs a little bit better than the other, but they all kind of just eat into each other as well.
I'll tell you, just looking quickly at some of the projections that Awesemo himself, our own Alex Baker, has for some of these guys tonight. And these are, I'm looking more at the DFS scope here than obviously Jock Market. But, you know, there's, you know, it's very relatable, just a function of who's available for you on Jock Market. But some of the guys that are in real good spots tonight that, you know, could lead you to some winnings. Jared Allen, Ricky Rubio, as Geoff was talking about, CD Osman, who Geoff mentioned as well, is a real good potential value play, cheap for you. You know, it's Evan Mobley is maybe a guy that you're not as keen on. Colin Sexton, Darius Garland as well. I mean, the guys that jump out again, Allen, Rubio, Osman. Of the 22 teams playing tonight, Geoff, and we got a couple minutes left, and obviously 11 games. Most of these teams, because we're so early in the year, are seeing each other for the first time. But there are a few cases where teams are matching. You know, Washington won its first meeting with Toronto by, 15 points. Brad Beal had 23 points in that game. You had Dallas taking its first meeting with San Antonio, close game, 5-point game. Another one, Sacramento, edged out New Orleans by 4 last time they played. Again, I know results of previous matchups don't mean anything for what we're talking about, but where I'm going with that is, do previous matchups of player performances mean anything to you when you're looking at who to roster, who to, you know, invest in here for stock market purposes?
I mean, you can definitely like look at past performances, but it's more like I more just look at the overall defensive ratings for a team. So again, if a guy had a strong performance against a team that had a weak defensive rating, maybe against his position or something like that as well, then yeah, I mean, you should keep playing it. But at the same time, if a guy had one bad game against a team that's not a good defensive team, and you can kind of just write it off. So I don't look into historical performance too much, but there's something to be said for it, right? I mean, some centers are just going to perform well against each other ones. Some guards, the same thing. I'm just trying to think if there's any specific examples. I don't really have one, but again, I really think that NBA is more. It's more of like a team thing where you should just be looking at like the team ratings versus like individual matchups. So a great example tonight is like Jonas Valanciunas against the Sacramento Kings. Kings, not a great rebounding team at all. Valanciunas definitely stands out as a guy who's going to be playing over 30 minutes in the spot. I would not have a problem like investing in him at all.
It's funny. I mean, Valanciunas, who I may or may not have mentioned earlier, I don't remember, but definitely among the sort of, I wouldn't call him a stud, but that next tier under the big names that are available to you tonight. Yeah, he's absolutely in the best spot. So I totally agree. There really are not a lot of guys in terms of higher price guys, more expensive guys that you could look at on Jock Market that are in great spots tonight. Again, it's Jokic, it's Curry, it's Towns, it's Luka, it's George, it's Durant, it's Harden, Embiid. The list goes on from there, but Lillard, Morant, Randall as well. None of them are in great spots. It's really Valanciunas, and then you start to dive down to some of the cheaper guys like Rashawn Holmes and Jared Allen, who we talked about, Devontae Graham. You could look at for the Pelicans as well. You could look at Miles Turner, who we don't talk a lot about. You could go to the juniors, Michael Porter, Wendell Carter. You could look at them.